Hello everyone, welcome to another session of the European Chatbot and Conversational AI Summit. This is my great pleasure to be a host for you over the next couple of minutes. My name is Karol Stryja, and I would like to make a small intro to the topic that Michal, my co-host, will have deeper dive into. What are we going to talk about? The hottest world in the voice space. Games. The voice games. Before we dig deeper, let me introduce you to today's storytellers. Michal Stanislawek, the CEO of Hear Me AI, and myself, Chief Commercial Officer at OtherOne. Let's get started. First of all, we would like to talk about the consumer's behavior, about the trends and facts. Later, focus on gaming and games. Then share some examples of the international brands that are actively using games in their communication channels. And finally, talk about the use patterns and case studies. But most of all, we want to make sure you will pay attention to the marketing potential of the games. It's really important, as the adoption of smart speakers not only grows on a regular basis, but it is far higher than the tempo of mobile phones adoption a couple of years ago. The truth is, smart speakers are everywhere, in our homes, in our mobile phones. We use the conversational interfaces in our cars, elevators. We can speak even to a refrigerator. Ultimately, believe me or not, every app you use right now in your phone will become the voice app. Speaking is faster than typing. Speaking is our natural interface. We can communicate using our voice far before we are capable of writing and reading. That's the fact. Keep that in mind. Couple of words as an intro. Together with Michal, we run on the daily basis a leading voice agency in Poland that focuses not only on delivering Google Actions and Alexa skills, but also a research and development studio that works on MVPs, including voice technology, like voice recognition, text-to-speech technologies, and content analytics. What's also super important, we believe that at this stage of the voice adoption, the vivid voice community is a highly important pillar for that. That's why we founded Voice Lunch, which is right now the biggest online community for conversation designers, developers, and all tech enthusiasts who believe that voice will be the next interface of choice. We meet on a regular basis every Tuesday at 6 p.m. CET to discuss all things related with voice technology, inviting book authors, people from the industry, sharing use cases, and just having fun, building real relationships and exchanging knowledge worldwide. What's important to be mentioned, tomorrow at 4:20 p.m. at the end of this summit, we have planned a special session that is open for all. We would like to gather with all of the people that joined the summit and talk about your thoughts, takeaways, and inspirations in a voice lunch style, with no specific agenda, with no commercial flavor. Join us for free at 4:20 p.m. tomorrow. This will be fun, I guarantee you. Also, make sure you will join our mailing list at register.voicelunch.com to receive weekly invites for regular Voice Lunch meetings. What's crucial to note, we are active not only globally, but have local editions of Voice Lunch in the US, Brazil, India, Japan, France, the Netherlands, Italy, Israel, and Spain. We also have topic-specific meetings that happens every 2 weeks and are dedicated only to language and linguistics area. Coming back to the topic, the games. Just to give you some background information, the only one assistant speaking Polish right now is Google, available only on the mobile phones. Neither Alexa nor Google nor Siri support standalone devices in our local language in Poland. Even though our most popular voice games, The Question of the Day and The Countries and the Cities, gather almost 100,000 users every month. What's also even more important, the traction we have on the organic reach. people start using voice assistants naturally. They are experimenting, and remember, more than 90% of mobile phone users use Android devices with Google Assistant built in. Please keep that in mind. The only thing that is needed to run it is to say, "Okay, Google." So, how do people use voice assistants right now? The latest research done by VoiceBot AI and Brett Kinsella showed that more than 70% of people use their smart speakers on a daily basis for playing music or podcasts. A little less use smart speakers to ask about the weather, fact-checking, and news. More than 50% of the users play voice games. When you look at the Google Action Store, the most popular ones have thousands of reviews. Speaking to the games, just look around you. The games are everywhere. Games were always in the nature of humankind. Last year, only more than 2 billion people were playing games on a regular basis on their mobile phones. Esport is booming. With the scale of adoption, it's only a matter of time that people will switch to voice games. Why? It's the availability. It's the instant availability. Why? It's available instantly. It's interactive, and it's also interesting for kids. Once they try voice interfaces, they won't switch to the keyboards or keypads. Believe me, and keep that also in mind. Please also keep in mind one other fact. Voice is right now in the spotlight of attention of Google, Amazon, Samsung, Apple, and others. While most of us tend to think that Apple has given up on voice, they have just released the new HomePod Mini for $99, what, looking at Apple prices, is radically cheap. Why? For driving adoption. Amazon wants to use their smart speakers for creating another layer of the internet, where instead of typing your questions in Google form, you will be just asking, "Alexa, what's the best hairdresser in the city?" Google AdWords? No. Sure. Alexa. Also, Samsung works on incorporating their voice user interfaces in their products. Bixby was meant to be a link between humans and technology. Why to use keys? Just say to turn on the microwave. The future of the voice interfaces is bright, so please pay attention to that. Without further ado, please welcome on the stage my co-host, Michal Stanislawek, who will share even more detailed stuff about games. Are you ready? Michael, over to you.
Thank you, Karol. So now let me take you on a journey of what we've done, what we've learned, what were our experiences when we built Pytanie Dnia, which is a daily quiz that is built on top of the Google Assistant platform available in Poland. What is worth mentioning that for the moment in Poland, Google Assistant is only available on phones, and this is the experience that I will focus on. So you might ask, why did we even build a game and why we started with it? So the answer is twofold. The first reason was to test the depth of the Polish Google Assistant market. When it launched, Google didn't even really use any of the marketing capabilities to tell users that Google Assistant is available. And the second reason was to answer or try to answer the question that we've been posing in front of ourselves since the very beginning. How can we use voice experiences to promote products or brands? But before we start, let's actually begin with the definition of the problem. As you all are well aware, most or pretty much all of the brands are already using different communication channels to talk to their customers. Some of them are bidirectional and allow users to speak back. But what happens if a user tries to use the smart speaker or the phone and the assistant on it to actually search information about a brand or even to talk to the brand? Let me bring a statistic that really stood up to me. Based on the recent voice commerce report by Vixen Labs, 70% of UK users are actively searching for brand-related information using voice. That is 70% of the users. And what happens to those users, you might ask? A lot of the times they're actually being given an answer that is buried somewhere deep within the knowledge graph of any given voice assistant platform, or it's a straight up result from the web. Is this really the experience that you want users asking or wanting to talk to your brand have? Well, you might say, yes, we're going to build a skill and we're going to put it into the directories, into the skill store or into the action directory. But the problem is that even if users would go and search for those skills, they're not easy to find. The directories themselves are not easy to find. And again, is this really the experience you want your user who's searching for the information about how to talk to your brand be? Well, I very much doubt it. And the effect of all of the above is that finally the users are feeling a little bit lost when it comes to talking to your brand. But let's start with Pytanie Dnia. I'll tell you the mechanisms that we've built into the game so that you get a better grasp of what it's about. And then I'm going to move to how we harnessed the organic capabilities of the Google Assistant platform, how we built in the promotional mechanism and how we're using it for the brands, and how did we actually make it easier for content production and content editing for the editors. Pytanie Dnia is a daily skill, as I mentioned, where the user gets one single question per day that they can answer. What we focused on is the quality. We ensured that we created and curated a big pool of general knowledge questions of different levels of difficulty. First of all, we are focused on making sure that the users actually have a great experience when they're using the skill. The primary goal for us was to make sure that the user actually likes playing the game. So the user is being served one question where they can provide an answer, and once they answer whether it's good or bad, they will be getting an explanation for that particular question, and sometimes we might give them an ability to find out more information on the web, Wikipedia, or other places. So you might ask what happens if the user have answered the question for the day and they're coming back. The mechanism that we've used is to give them curiosities, and curiosities are based on the content that we've created as explanations for the questions. Then, how did we harness the organic capabilities of Google Assistant? And this is where it gets interesting. Google Assistant has a built-in intent called Play Game. And this is what's being launched when any user says, okay, Google, let's play a game. Then the user, as you can see on the screen, is being presented with a list of games that are available. Does it mean that your game is going to be there? Not necessarily. And this is why the quality is so important. This is why the reviews are so important. And this is why it's really important for the users to actually like the experience that you're using. The more users use it, the more users actively use it, the more chances it has to be on that list. It turns out that roughly around 50,000 users a month play our game, and that is far beyond any of the expectations that we had for it. So let me now move to the promote mechanism that we're using that we've built to promote brands and products and other things. First of all, it's the conversation branding. We can brand the entire conversation, but we will never actually change the main flow of the gameplay. And this is, again, not to affect the experience that the users have who might not want to participate in the branded experience. Where it gets interesting is we enable the mechanisms of bonus questions. A bonus question is a question that the user is presented with and asked whether they want to engage with after the main flow of the game is completed. And those bonus questions could be branded questions, could be questions about a service, about a product, about a game. On this screen, you can see a bonus question that we've used when Karol was on a radio show that day. And we've used it to promote that particular radio show. What happens when the user actually answers the bonus question, you might ask? Then, for us, it's usually the end of the experience, which means that after explaining what the answer should be and providing the user with more information, we can take the user and direct them to a website. We can direct them to an application on the phone or a different voice experience. We also went ahead and performed a couple of surveys that I'll mention in the further part of this presentation. One thing that we've learned the hard way is that it's really difficult to produce content for voice. It's really difficult to have editors actually understand SSML, understand the tags. And that lesson led us to building a web-based CMS that has not only the ability to visually enter breaks, visually enter aliases, but also preview how it's going to sound. And we've done it for both Google and Alexa, and we're using it for many other skills. So you might be asking, so who's using it? And that's quite interesting because in Europe itself, Android has over 68% of the market share when it comes to the mobile devices. And that means that over 850 million users already have Google Assistant on their phones. And all they need to do to invoke your skill or to talk to your brand is say, "Okay, Google, let's talk to," or "Okay, Google, I want to play a game." What's interesting in terms of the users that we had on our platform, and this comes back to the survey that we performed. The survey was performed on the 2,000 users of the Polish Google Assistant platform. And we were actually expecting these to be younger generation and younger users. And what you can see, this red part of the circle, over 50%, turned out to be people who are above 37 years old. We obviously made a mistake and didn't actually think that there would be so many people that are going to be older, and it's a big chunk. But that also means that it's not just a medium for young people. Okay, so now as a brand, what you can do to use and harness that potential. You're already talking to your customers. So you already have the capabilities to address the discoverability problem that most of the voice creators are struggling with. You can use and print the invocation on your product, on a leaflet, on anything physical that you're delivering to your customers. And then you don't have to worry about the organic reach. Users will see and immediately know how to interact with your brand. This way you're actually taking control and not leaving the discussion or the search for brand information to chance. You may also harness the organic traffic, be it by building an experience that has the organic potential or capabilities on the platform that you're targeting it to, or using the already built games and experiences like Pytanie Dnia and using the mechanisms that they have built in. What I would say is that it's the right time to start, and it's the right time to experiment. I would not recommend creating anything that is complicated. I would not recommend creating anything that resembles IVR systems. I would recommend to start very simple, very small, but the time for experimentation is right now. Thank you very much for your time, and may the voice be with you.